Hey, everybody, and welcome to Just Another Nerdy Podcast. I'm Jay. For those of you curious, today we're doing our Twitch streamer highlight interview for the week. We do that every Monday. We interview different streamers of all sorts of levels to kind of get their idea of their perspective of Twitch, and we also like to get to know a little bit of their story and what advice they might have for aspiring streamers and whatnot. So. Welcome. If you guys are looking for us, we are on Facebook, Twitter, we are on Instagram. We have our own Instagram page now. You can actually look us up at instagram.com/justanothernerdypodcast. We're going to have clips from the podcast and clips from these interviews up. And then we stream live on Mondays. We do the interviews with random streamers, and we stream live on Wednesdays around noon. What we do is we interview, or on Wednesdays we get together and we talk about the nerdy news for the week and kind of what nerdy stuff we've been up to. We might do movie reviews and whatnot. But regardless, you can find us on all those platforms. You can download us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Castbox. Google Play as well. If you're interested, you can download us. Put a little nerdy in your pocket, so you don't have enough time to sit down and watch these interviews. You can download it. You can, so while you're out there shoveling the snow, if you're in that predicament like me, you got a nice podcast to listen to as well. You can go and watch us over at YouTube. You can search Just Another New Podcast. You're gonna find this mug holding 2 search cans. So yeah. Without further ado, let's bring in our awesome interview for the week. Flaming Monocle. How are we doing, sir? What's that? I like it. I like it. Yeah, that is. I bet you do. I'm lazy. I just pay people. Oh my sweet lord. Let me fix that real quick. Okay. Let's see here. We've got this is Nuggy Meal just pops in. She goes, "Psst, Jay, your stream title. It's wrong." Oh yeah. She's got my back. She was watching me stream this morning. She's always very helpful. She likes to make clips. So Nuggy Meal, remember, make plenty of clips today. Um, Here we go. Okay, and you, we will fix this. We'll fix this. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, so we're all good to go now. We've got the right interview going. Looking out for the homies, she says. So Flaming Monocle. I like to get to know people a little bit. Like, we like to kind of get into the nitty gritty about streaming and whatnot. But the most important question I like to start off with is like, how did you get into streaming? Okay. So are we still working on the whole um Oh man. That's a lot. Do you I mean, so for like the letter, so you're on the letter A. I mean, are there any games that you're just like, I wish I could go and play this right now, but I'm still stuck in the letter A? Like, is there any regret games? You're gonna be dead by the time you get to The Witcher 3. Yeah.
I've only ever played Assassin's Creed 1 in because of this whole A to Z challenge thing. And I knew that it was ASS. I was like, that's not far away. I've now got like 20 odd games before I even get to Assassin's Creed. So I have all of those to look forward to.
Oh my goodness, what is my phone doing? I'm sorry. So,
That's all
okay,
right.
just a quick man, we are having an uphill battle today, Monocle. I have to apologize. I think that's the stream of evil. I don't know. Coming my way, but can you just real quick, can you just recap your YouTube thing? I just found out that like part of the audio wasn't going there. So why don't we recap your end? How did you get into the streaming again? You said you started in YouTube.
I did, yes. It was back in, as I say, back in 2014. I was glancing at my Steam library, and at that point, I noticed that there was a good 800 games in there. And knowing at that point, even 800 is an enormous amount of games.
What is happening?
In order from the top of the list to the bottom of the list, so from A to Z. And I called it the A to Z challenge and started out back in, as I say, back in 2014. Created a little video to hype it up and everything. Was doing YouTube 7 days a week. I was doing daily uploads and everything, and I, I even started earning a pittance from YouTube out of ad revenue. And I was like, yes, $10. This. I've made it. And so 2016, there was a bit of a mass exodus from YouTube to sort of Twitch when it came to my friends. And I decided to make the jump across as well because Twitch seemed a much more engaging and fun way to present videos. And that's when I started doing Twitch.
Awesome. Okay, so you started Twitch. You're working on the A to Z category. You said you're still trying. How you said you have 200 games in your A category still?
I mean, I'm looking at it now. I'm like 7 games away from 7,300 games. The last game I played was one called. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Where's all my Assassin's Creed games? So I'm scrolling through the letter A. I'm now playing a game called um, As Divine Hearts. I have no idea what that game is. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, no, about 12 games until I get to Assassin's Creed. And then I can play all the Assassin's Creed game finally.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and I'm trying to think. I've got at least 150, 160 before I even get to the letter B, where I can start playing the Back to the Future games, which I have played. I decided that I was sick of waiting because I really wanted to play those.
Okay. Yeah, I've got like I always feel like such a noob when I'm looking through like I look at my Steam hours and I look at my Steam library. I might have like 90 games and I'm still like I have too many games to play. I
You have not witnessed crippling choice anxiety until you're scrolling and scrolling and going, I don't know what any of these are, and they could be gold.
Oh man. I guess I mean I'm sort of building it up a little bit with like have you experimented at all with the Twitch Amazon Prime
I have.
the Twitch like they my library's filling up fast.
With all their freebie Prime ones, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, they're just growing. I looked in there. I was like, the messenger's in here. When did I get the messenger? I wanted to play that really bad.
I get the feeling they really want to introduce people to playing on something that's not Steam and having people sort of at home on their app. So there is that,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well, that app is not my favorite thing because it just opens whether or not you want it to. Uh,
Well, the thing is, I would totally be into the Twitch app, really hugely big time, if it weren't for the fact that it's such a resource hog. It is
yeah,
such a resource hog. And it's like I can run Steam and Discord simultaneously on my cheapest, oldest little netbook. But when I try and run the Twitch app, everything dies.
yeah, it's not very convenient. It's not my favorite thing, but and in order to play the game, I think you have to open it. I'm not sure, but it's kind of frustrating. But
Yeah.
I did find games in there that I want to play, but everything's growing now. My library of games just keeps growing, and my time to play them keeps shrinking. And then I picked up Red Dead Redemption, and that was the stupidest idea.
And somehow you made time for it, which is weird how people can do that.
Yeah, yeah. But that's it. Like that's the only thing. Like that's been my life. I think for 4 months. I think I've just been playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, it's when you look at the schedule and go, I'm spending like 6 hours a night sleeping. I'm sure we could cut that down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I only need like what 2. We're good. It's a lot of fun though. So what I see like on Monday, like you have a whole gaming schedule. Like on Mondays you've been playing like My Summer Car.
Mhm.
What type of games, what did you start playing with, and like what have you landed with now? Like what did you start streaming with? I suppose what did you start YouTubing with?
Well, I started the very first YouTube video I did was a game called NPPD Rush: The Milk of Ultraviolet. Now, the reason that was first is because it begins with 2 forward slashes, and thus was at the top of my Steam library. And I have to say, it is one of the worst games I've ever played. To this day, still is one of the worst games I've ever played. And subsequently after that, I went through my Steam library A to Z as or A to later A. Um, excuse me. But on Twitch, because it's a live environment, I was kind of nervous about breaching the sort of pressing the button and going live kind of thing. And so what I did to alleviate that tension was choose games which I knew I could at least play semi blindfolded or, could purely interact with chat rather than focus too heavily on the game. So to that end, I literally played every Final Fantasy game I could get my hands on because if I could stream it, I'd play it because I've played them all to death anyway. And so I started with I think I started with 7, and I did 8, and then I did 9, and so on. And then I went back and did like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And after that, I felt I got my eye in. And then I realized most people don't really care too much for long, drawn out, text heavy role playing fantasy games unless they know that you're the guy to come to for it. So at that point, I got into games such as My Summer Car. I got into that quite early. And the reason I got into that is because of the insane um, penchant for that game to provide ample opportunity to get everything catastrophically wrong in hilarious ways, which has no reflection whatsoever on the competency of the player, but even doing something as asinine as I'm going to drive my very favorite blue van to the shops to buy some chips so I have something to eat so I don't starve, and you die en route because the guy who happens to be driving the bus that day wants your blood and you're involved in a head on, and then you respawn at the graveyard, which is so far away from everything. You have to walk to find your car, which has probably been, deposited somewhere on the map. There's no way of locating it. You literally just have to go find it 1995 style, which is walk through the forest until you find it. And there are some things in that game where I've crashed things and lost stuff that's fairly important, and I can't find it because it's somewhere on the map. So I'm like, okay, well, this is a game we're going to be playing for a while then, and people just seem to love it. It's the one that in the end got me the check mark as well. So I have a lot to thank My Summer Car for, and to this day, and bearing in mind I've put hundreds of hours into that, I still find plenty to do to make it entertaining.
That's awesome. What else are you playing right now?
Presently, I've actually got a couple of things on at the moment, and I'm devoting 1 day a week to video games that have been given to me by indie developers. I've got one that's coming up on the 31st called Rainswept. They're doing a release, um, and it's going to be it's a detective game, a 2D detective game with a sort of 16-bit aesthetic to it. Looks really, really, really good. I played the demo, can't wait. I backed it, and they got in touch and said, "Hey, we saw you backed our game. We saw you played it. Have some keys." I'm like, cool, that's what I'm doing. Mondays I do my summer car usually, except today, obviously. Tuesdays at the moment are my sort of indie game days. Wednesdays I play a game called Deep Rock Galactic. Deep Rock Galactic is a fantastic multiplayer co-op shoot 'em up come mining game where you're basically up to four of you are a bunch of dwarves and you get shot into like asteroids and things like that, and you are tasked with locating minerals or certain items and things like that and bringing it back for the company you work for, except that every single place they send you is teeming with alien life that wants to destroy you. And it's utterly hilarious. Utterly hilarious. Really, really good fun. I wish more people would play it. It's virtually unknown, I've noticed, in greater YouTubing and Twitch parts. And Thursdays, I've just started doing Elder Scrolls Online again. First time I've played that since 2014 when it came out. I played it non-stop for about a month and then I stopped. And now I'm back into it again. I've noticed they've done a whole bunch of stuff. They've updated everything and it looks really, really good now. So I'm back into Elder Scrolls Online on Thursdays. And then on Fridays, I like to finish off with something with some of the guys in my chat. And at the moment, I'm doing a little mini series on Stardew Valley, which is to create the ultimate profit farm at the expense of everything. Like no social, no anything like that, just pure profit. And that seems to work out pretty well too.
I saw a clip a little while ago. You were playing something with Zolthara.
Hmm.
Something, it was like, all I know is in the clip I popped in, you're wearing like, you guys are wearing like hazmat suits, or someone's wearing a hazmat suit, and you're yelling
Oh, you're
about
talking a viscera
don't.
cleanup detail.
Yeah, what is that? I've been
It's
trying to
only
figure
one
that
of the, it's
out.
it's only one of the most underrated greatest games of all time. I'd love to play that again. Actually, thinking about it, it's a game where you pick a map where a catastrophe has happened, and you are basically the hazmat team. You come in and you have to clean up. The game is you have to clean up the various blood, entrails, viscera, boxes, and explosives and crap everywhere, and essentially, incinerate all the crap, and then literally get your mop and bucket out and clean up all the blood stains and everything. And then you're tasked with doing it to the best of your ability, finishing the level, and then you get a written report as to how well you did. And if you fail in any way, there's they give you like paperwork to fill out, legit paperwork, and you can really affect your score by failing to fill it out correctly. And you have to give like, so which of your teammates was the greatest and why? And it's like, oh, it was, and then I'm like writing this very verbose thing, and it's like, and then it gives me like a score afterward. It's such a good game, but only, I think it kind of it's one of those games where it draws you in because of when everyone is inept at it. It's so much funnier because everyone's knocking over buckets, forgetting to, because if you use the same bucket too often, it'll just turn into blood itself, and you have to keep refreshing the water and knocking stuff over. Often we create more mess than cleaning up mess. And there are some maps that's like, warning, this map will take 4 hours to complete. And I'm like, that sounds good. Let's do that. So we did that. It lasted like 5.5 hours. It was beautiful. And yeah, I've had a really fantastic time with that. And I think that the best time to have with it is when you're relatively new to it. Because I can imagine there's veteran players who are like, right, this. And it's, yeah, it's not quite as fun as being somewhat inept at it.
Yeah, I think the best games are like come from chaos.
Yes.
And, like you're talking about my summer car, and then this visceral cleanup,
Viscera
vi-
cleanup detail.
viscera cleanup detail. I've been looking for that game. I was trying to find the title of the game in the
You
in the thing for the clip, and I just couldn't find it for some reason. I was like, oh, I want to find this, like,
you
because
may
I've wanted
also
it.
have you may have also heard of the Santa's Rampage version, the DLC. A lot of YouTubers played that, where it's the same thing, but you see like blood, and you're at the North Pole, and you're effectively cleaning up Santa's workshop. He's gone on a rampage, and it's just bits of bloody elf everywhere. So
I haven't, but now that I have, that is going to be at the top of my list to look for. I like those ridiculous type games. Like, I mean, it reminds me, like, when I first started streaming, I was playing Don't Starve, and I played like a little Octodad, and stuff like that. Like, I like the kind of the chaotic, ridiculous
hmm
stuff. Let's see here. Skeptop Live was asking, have you ever heard of the Stardew mod, Royale?
oh,
And
it's
do
the
they have
yes.
any thoughts on it?
I watched I've watched a couple of people play it. It's not my jam, but it's funny watching all of those otherwise humble citizens of the valley going at one another with swords and stuff, which is quite amusing. I've never been into battle royale games. The only one was like the very first one that people really got hyped about. Was it not the wasn't the Purge? It was the Culling. The first Culling when it first came out, I thought was great, and then I kind of was like meh. And then after that, I've lost interest. So
I I I would have to invest time into gaining a skill to be able to play those because I'm so terrible at them.
yeah, I never really got into it. I was kind of interested because I was a huge fan of the Hunger Games, and still am. And it just it became something that was less about, because what enamored me about the Hunger Games is that you're talking about a group of people who are put thrust into an environment of which they have no knowledge and have relatively the skills that they bring with them essentially. Whereas in battle royale games, because so many people for so long have been playing the same style of games, everyone is an elite veteran at what they're doing immediately. And the style of gameplay is now it's basically team versus team, except you're all on your own, and it doesn't feel like the what made the Hunger Games unique, which was like the environment controls and things like that. It feels like those don't really matter anymore. It's basically just a case of here's a giant map, find everyone and kill them, rather than here's a relatively small map or something like that, and we need to put pressure on, but not by giving people all the big guns and things like that, but by making it genuinely difficult to achieve your objectives. I don't
There there was
know.
a game that I saw that kind of reminded me of that. I can't. It was something like the Darwin Project or something like that. It reminded me a lot of the Hunger Games when I saw it, where you're given like a bow and I think like an axe, and you have to like chop down the trees for wood for arrows, and then they
Nice.
close biomes down. You're in a different biomes, and they close them down, sort of
Yeah, and
forcing you
isn't there
into
like
each other's area.
yeah, I mean anything where it just breaks the monotony of just going into a map,
Yeah.
skydiving in and being right time to find some people. Oh, I got sniped from 12 miles away.
There there was an interesting, so the interesting aspect with that game is like, um first of all, you can snowball people to death because they'll freeze to death if you snowball them too many times.
Right.
But they also had, one person plays as a commentator. So what they do is they go from person to person, they can talk to each person, they can give them clues as to where other people are, they can give that, they have the ability to give them items and things that will give them an advantage, or take advantages away from people. They like, you just have like, you one person gets to play this all seeing power that can go in from place to place, and they're the ones in charge of closing the biomes, I think.
See, I can get behind that. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's free to play on, if I'm right, I think it's free to play on Steam now. It was
Oh.
on Xbox. It might be on Xbox and PS4 as well, but I think on Steam it's free to play now as well. But I was
There is only one, as I say, there is only one other sort of battle royale game that I was vaguely interested in to the point where I actually backed it, which was the Cyanide and Happiness Rapture Rejects,
ooh.
which I don't know if you've heard of.
No, my gaming knowledge is super low. If it's
I mean, yeah, I mean, Rapture Rejects. It's almost like isometric sort of viewpoint, and you can play as one of the sort of Cyanide and Happiness style characters, and it is a battle royale game, but it's hilarious, not safe for work, bright, colorful, really interesting. It's the Rapture. Everyone's going, and for those who are left behind, it's a battle royale, and it's kind of it's but I don't want to really spoil it. It's one of those things that has to be kind of experienced. I feel so. If you've not tried it, and same goes for anyone listening that I recommend you have a crack at it. It's good fun.
It looks pretty awesome. So let me ask you, you started at YouTube. You started out on YouTube and then you made the switch over to Twitch. What was it a big change for you? What kind of challenges did you run into making that switch?
Also, one of the largest challenges I faced while moving from YouTube to Twitch was trying to figure out how to maintain an expectation of good production value. Because one of the things I prided myself on whilst at YouTube was to produce videos that were fun to watch, that were slickly edited, that had production value behind them. And I'd always try and find ways to improve upon that. And I wanted to bring that quality over to Twitch, and I didn't immediately know how. So I kind of had to figure it out for myself. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I've got to try and make it almost look like a television production from start to finish, like with transitions. And if I got anything wrong on timing, or if something looked wrong, or if there was a couple of pixels that were, I would just tear my hair out just because I knew I could do better than that. And it got to the point where I was investing quite heavily time wise into doing my own overlays and things like that. And I love the graphic design aspect, so it's not something I'm terribly worried about. But then I was thinking to myself, it needs more motion. It's not TV style yet. And so to that end, I ended up spending way more money than I expected on getting some animations produced. I was using a program called Latch Tools, which enabled me to do a Flash based giveaway system, which looked absolutely incredible. So I integrated that heavily into my chat, and I had fully hand-drawn animation alerts and things like that. And I remember having a really rushed together raid response, which was essentially the last scene in I'm trying to remember what it was now. Oh God. I can't remember the last. I can't remember the name, but I'll remember it in a second. It was a scene from an old movie, which I just dubbed very quickly, and then I replaced that with. I was gradually increasing the production value, making things better and better as I went along. I was never really happy with it, and even to this day, I can see things, and I'm like, this isn't a TV production. And so, one of the fun things and one of the least fun things about Twitch is that desire to always look and sound and feel like you are doing something professional. And you realize that television is not made by one person. And if I was going to put like a credits list together, it would be a very short list indeed. But you realize that you need to make sacrifices and compromises. And the single biggest thing from moving from YouTube to Twitch is that you don't have all the time in the world to make it look precisely how you want. You have to do it in the here and now, and you can't stop and render things. You are limited by what your computer can do in real time. And even now, when I stream, my particular audio setup relies on a series of VST, virtual studio tools, which make the sound a lot richer and more radio-like. And that gives me almost 1.5 seconds of delay in itself. And I've been trying to whittle that down, because 1.5 seconds of delay between what people are seeing and what they're hearing is going to show up. And so I'm moving to hardware, which will obviously make it a lot more. Well, it will make it real time, but when you're stuck with very little money and you've got to try and make it sound as professional as possible, you try and find some shortcuts. It's interesting. It's a really it's a pioneering field.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about your channel is your production value. The second that I popped in was insane. Like, you have a high amount of production value in comparison to even the higher production value people that I watch. There's this guy named Harris Heller that I like to watch a lot, and he has a lot of advice and stuff on production. And then I watched yours and I was like, holy cow, this guy's insane. Like, you have some of the best animations. Your raid or host little video that you played, I popped in the middle of that, and I hit follow immediately, but I popped in when someone else was raiding you. I was just popping in, and I got dropped into the animation, and it blew my mind that my name was in that animation.
It's cool, isn't it? It wasn't cheap, so I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. But I mean, and it's even little things like your music is fantastic. You're right, your voice, your audio quality is really really good. And then on top of that, you have little animations, like when you first start, there's like little bits of fire that pop up. That opening clip that I promoted you with my house is on fire. You know, you see
Hmm.
that, like the fire just popping up, wisping around the corner. It's just insane. That is one thing I you know, people probably tell you all the time, but your production value is just fantastic.
Well, thank you. It is the thing I agonize most about, without a shadow of a doubt. Even now, I'm like semi in the middle of a massive overhaul as well to do what I can to increase the slickness between things, because there's some things I'm still not happy with, because I know I can make it better, but sometimes you have to know when enough's enough. You can't agonize over the tiny little things if your main content is going to suffer as a result. So I need to just try and, if there was one thing if there was one thing I need to improve, I would say it would be to let go of the little things and just have fun and entertain people, as best as I can.
I think that's the biggest challenge of someone who enjoys the production side of Twitch, is just like moving forward. Like probably like something that I can relate to on a smaller scale. Like I was trying to upgrade my camera. I have like a Canon Rebel X1 that I was trying to use instead of my
Hmm.
webcam.
And they
And
overheat desperately.
what's that?
And they overheat desperately if you leave
Yes.
them on.
Yeah, 30 minutes. 30 minutes is about what I can get out of it. And I'm like, okay, well, for a 4 hour play session, that's not gonna fly. Um, which really
Hmm.
sucks because, you know, like I thought maybe because if I am not hitting the actual film button, I'm just using the preview button, but no, it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
they have a tendency to overheat chronically. Because I had a Canon 6D, which in Europe they're named differently, I believe, but they're not terribly dissimilar. And mine would have about 30-40 minutes before it would crap out because it's overheating.
Yeah. So I was like, that sucks. But I'm like, okay, move on. We've still got the webcam. It doesn't look nearly as nice as the Canon, but we're just gonna move on. We're just gonna live.
Well, also, there's a really. I'm trying to. I'll see if I can remember where the article was, and I'll send it your way. But it's, as someone who's been a photographer in my professional life for a number of years, it's remarkable just how good. Like even the little Logitech C920s, which everyone seems to have a dozen of lying around, without remembering quite where they'd bought it. Um, those can look tremendous if you spend the time to light, and you spend the time uh, to really set it up correctly, and turn the gain way down and compensate for it with real light, and suddenly you've got a really nice slick, admittedly only 30 FPS, but still HD, record, or sorry, broadcast going on. I mean, those little things are quite powerful when you light them correctly, but they shine in the ability to create a good looking picture with relatively no light whatsoever. So it's yeah, it's a case of just some basic principles. Same with microphones, really. A lot of people don't realize that any microphone can sound relatively good. I mean, it's just a case of eliminating background noise to the best of your ability, or doing what you can to get rid of it. And if you can do that, you've solved 90% of the problem.
Yeah, understanding sound is it's beyond me. I've done some research and I'm working a little bit. Like I ended up actually, just because we're doing the podcast, I bought a mixer. But you know, I was doing some research beforehand, even just with my USB microphone, and it was a bit of a headache, I'd say. But I mean, you can do wonders with it if you know what you're doing, and you even know what type of microphone to buy too. Because sometimes, you know, if you buy something a little bit different, it'll make a huge difference. Like I think like a dynamic microphone in comparison to, um, oh, I've lost it. Anyways, you know,
Well, so here's the thing. I mean, I started on Twitch I went out and bought, in preparation for Twitch, I went out and just bought a Blue Yeti. Blue is a company I respected anyway, and they've been around in the game forever. And it's a little USB. I mean, everyone's heard of the Blue Yeti, but for those who don't know, it's a great little USB microphone. It has one control on it for gain, and you turn that to zero. If you turn that to zero and you compensate for it elsewhere on the software, then you've got yourself a really fantastic sounding little mic. And if I lost this one tomorrow, I would go straight back to the Yeti, and I don't think people would notice a tremendous amount of difference.
yeah, no, not too much. That's the thing. That's the problem too. Is like I'm not an audiophile, so like I started off with just my headset, and someone said, "Well, you need to upgrade your audio and video quality," and I was like, I had no idea what the difference was, and I still could probably barely tell, even going back. You know.
Well, here's the thing, because a lot of people certainly can get away with doing, because some of these headset mics are sounding fantastic now, and of course you can absolutely do that now. Though the one thing I would say is that ever since doing all the YouTube stuff, and for having done this since like 2014 now, which sounds like no time at all, but I realize now it's like what, 5 years now.
Yeah.
Um, um, and I'm thinking, I'm now so much more discerning about what content I will tolerate, not watch, but tolerate, if the quality of the audio isn't acceptable. I'm not saying great. I'm talking like acceptable, because you can have the world's worst video content, but if it's factual or if it's entertaining and the audio is fine, I will sit and listen to that or watch it and so on, and there'll be no problem whatsoever. It doesn't matter if you have the world's greatest, most researched content in the universe. If your audio doesn't sound pleasant to my ears, I will immediately stop playing the video. There is nothing that I want to watch on YouTube that I won't kill it if it doesn't sound good. So I would say, if I was going to put an importance value on Twitch, like audio quality to video quality, audio quality would be up at like 75%, probably. And that's not a joke, because I mean, I know there's a lot of really big big Twitch guys out there who have insane levels of audio quality, but have literally nothing when it comes to like overlays and other things. Like, they're just them, and they have thousands of people watching. I'm like, okay, I can listen to these guys. Their audio is good, and that's something I think a lot of people share as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I have the issue now where if it's like skipping or something, I can't handle that. I
Hmm.
can't if there's like a little too much or scratch or something.
Yeah,
I think it's not too hard to reach an acceptable level of audio quality. Um, but once it gets to that the acceptable level up, I can't. I personally can't tell. Like
yeah.
that's what drives me crazy is I can't tell. So then I can't improve anymore. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I hear exactly what you're saying, and when it comes to doing things like this, because I do another podcast on Wednesdays with some friends of mine, and one of the things I keep forgetting, which is everyone's got their perfect setup and so on for their Twitch broadcast and so on, but when they're talking to me through Discord, or when I'm talking to someone else through Discord, I'm not going through my sexy setup. I'm going through Discord's Compressomatic 6000, and I'm coming out the other end going, Monocle's talking about having the greatest greatest sound quality ever. And he comes out sounding like this, and it's just, I'm just like, I'm watching it back going, I sound like I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm like, please understand, I'm not this bad usually.
You're yeah, like you sound fantastic on the stream. You do. I will
Oh,
tell
yeah.
anyone
Oh,
that. But so okay, so let's talk a little bit about like your niche. Your niche. What Ashgard, how's it going? How's it going, Ashgard? What you've got, I know you've kind of got this layer of evil. You Ashgard's mentioned before as well that you're off cam, like you don't do cam streaming. And then you've got this really high production quality. What do you feel like, you from your perspective, what do you feel your niche is? Like how do you present yourself to everyone?
well, first off, I'd like to thank you, because you're the first person I've spoken to with an American sounding accent that has said the word niche instead of niche. Because every time I hear the word niche, I want to claw my ears out with a rusty fork. And then,
You can thank Ashgard for that actually, because we had that whole conversation. He was like, it's like quiche niche,
yes.
and I was like, okay, because I've been fighting with it for months now. So
I was going to say, it makes the word kitchen a very different thing. So if I'm going to have a quiche and it's called a kitchen, never mind. Anyway, what is my niche? Um, well, what do I think? What do I do that's different from everyone else? I'd like to think that it is equal parts ego. Um, no, mainly ego, really. I think it's all about saying how amazing I am, and I like to provide. I mean, because ever since I moved to America, I've been listening nonstop to American style advertising, and British style advertising is different because they do it in a very subtle kind of way. Never really sat well with me. In America, it's like, this is the product, and you'll buy it now because it's the greatest product available for this very low price, and you'll be paying for the rest of your lives, and it'll be the worst thing you ever had. But we're not going to tell you that bit out loud. And I'm just, gobsmacked with how every ad sounds the same, and I realized that there is room in the market for people who can anti-sell. And I love a good anti-sell, which is, people don't expect things like um, me going on to say Twitter or whatever, saying, instead of saying the stream's live now, guys, come on in, join in, have fun with us, and we're going to be playing this game. Blah, 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 blah. No, it is, you will sit down for the next 5 hours and watch, regardless of whether or not you enjoy the content on the screen, and you will tell me you like it, kind of thing. And I think people kind of respect the fact that they know it's so over the top. It is obviously not a genuine sentiment, and that's a very extreme example. But they know that I don't mean to, because they know I'm not like that in person, really. But to have something like that is kind of entertaining, and to have an anti-sell, which is, don't do this specifically. It's not like reverse psychology, but it's like, there will be a stream, you won't be there, I'll hate you, we'll all die, things move on, kind of thing. And it's just, you've got to come at the advertising angle a different way. And when I'm on the stream and people say, "Oh, this is really good," I'll be like, "Yes, yes, it is really good. I'm glad you spotted that," kind of thing. And um, whenever you see anyone come in with a positive message, rather than being, "Oh no, you shouldn't say, oh, that's too kind," or "No, oh no, it's not," I'm just like, "Yes, God darn it, I am the greatest, best individual you've ever seen. By golly, you'll be back, won't you?" And it's very hard to turn that sort of thing down.
I like it. I think it flows really well. I've never even thought about that as I honestly, everyone else says we know it's a part of the persona. I didn't pick up on it. I just had fun watching and listening to you. Um,
Of course you did. You had a great time, and you'll be back.
and I'll be back. Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, you got really good content and whatnot. So what? I mean, what? Uh, have you had a bit of an uphill battle only doing like just audio stream, like no cam?
Well,
Like
here's the thing.
is that difficult for you or?
It is difficult for me because originally I really wanted to do the camera, and I'm like, yep, setting the camera up. And originally, literally, it was during the setup process for Twitch, and I was getting my because I've got one of those multi-layered screens at the back, so it's like green, white, or black, so I can change the background and so on. I'm setting things up, and I've got my camera, I've got my lighting. I'm like, got my top hat and everything, and I'm like, I have a problem. My name is the Flaming Monocle. My monocle's not currently on fire, and I don't think I can make it happen. So, without either some really terrible CG trickery, which will immediately look the worst and throw out all the work I've done elsewhere in production value. Because, slick production. Shame about that flame on the Flaming Monocle on the Flaming Monocle's channel. The one thing that kind of discerns him from everyone else. So I'm like, okay, let's back up. Maybe let's try this. Maybe let's try this, because I hear character animate as a thing. I'm like, yeah, but it's still kind of garbage. It's like you need to have a character that works in the confines of something that's relatively simple like that for it to look good. Like my friend Scribbly, who built his character from the ground up to work with character animator, and it looks fantastic. But for a human character to come in, it always looks robotic. I've never seen a not robotic character animator character, so I've kind of thrown that out. Same with face rig 2D and everything like that. It just looks a little bit crap. So I've just been like, I'm desperate for the day where I can get something that looks reasonable, because I'm marking myself as a bit of a cartoon character in the first place. I'd love to have an animated avatar, but so far no solution has yet presented itself. So really, my not doing video stuff was a matter of necessity than anything else. So I figured I had to up the production value even more as a result of that, because if I'm not on the screen, then something else better be good. So as it happens, I'm researching means to try and get that, because I have no data as to whether or not I would be any better on the screen or not. Like, for example, I mean, I know people that have gotten partnered after me on Twitch and have subsequently soared to greater and greater heights, and yet I still am at the sort of, I mean, my average audience at the moment is somewhat around 50, and it hasn't really changed for an enormous amount of time. And I'm like, is there something fundamental I'm doing? And I know that ultimately, as long as people are having a good time and I'm having a good time, then it doesn't matter. It's just, you always think about how to expand with things like this and how one might make it a full-time job and so on. But is it because I don't have a camera? I don't know. So I'm kind of at a bit of an impasse there.
Well, it's interesting. I've been watching a lot of videos about growth on Twitch, and one of the most the biggest bummers that I've heard. This guy that he does a lot of social media, he does a lot of YouTube, he does Twitch, and he talks a lot about the thing that his recommendation is go to YouTube, make a YouTube channel, grow on that platform, and bring them over to Twitch. And I'm like, so double your work? And he's like, no,
Yep.
half your work on Twitch, and then do the work that you do on Twitch over on YouTube, and then bring them over to Twitch. And I'm like, that just seems, I don't know, that's a lot.
Well,
You know?
you say that, but do you know what? Back in 2015, 2016, the advice was the exact same, which was, do you want to grow on YouTube? Get over to Twitch and make an audience over there. Bring them back over to YouTube. I'm like, okay, I get where this is going.
Yeah, well, and it's, it's just everything's so much more competitive, and the mark keeps getting raised. Though I will say for Twitch, they've added the affiliate program, and then I feel like they've shrunk the partner program a little bit. Like I don't remember, but I feel like the partner program when I started like 3 or 4 years ago was a lot higher. Like the mark
Oh, it
was a
certainly
lot
was. It
higher.
certainly
So
was.
yeah, Twitch is
It-
going down, and YouTube just keeps raising everything up to be able to get further. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Because I remember before they changed it fairly recently, I remember the partner requirements on Twitch were something like 500 concurrents as opposed to the 75 we're seeing today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't see that happening anytime soon. And then I was seeing people getting partnered based on the uniqueness of their content. And then I was seeing people getting partnered on whether or not they were in a particular branch of Twitch that they were trying to populate, such as like the cooking stuff, or whether it was the creative stuff. And so a lot of people got partnered off the back of they happened to be one of the better ones at that particular content, rather than necessarily hitting a particular viewer mark. And I was kind of hoping I could get into that. And it just so happened with the advent of my summer carving, I managed to hit the 75. And then I had to take 2 months off because I had health issues. And then I was like, oh, I'm back down to nothing again. So it's remarkable. You take any time off on Twitch and you will suffer. But people come back. Everyone comes back in the end. We've got a pretty good community. The evil community is pretty good, I've got to say, in an evil way.
They're good in an evil way. They're quite evil. How do you play with the because the Flaming Monocle, you're sort of the shticky like villain type, and
Hmm.
I guess like the 1800s villain, I guess, if you think about it that way.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely. The Victorian villain, absolutely.
there we go. That's a beautiful way to say it. Uh, how do you? I mean, do you find yourself slipping from time to time, or are you just like, have you gotten your mindset into, I'm evil constantly? You know what I mean?
Well, the beauty is that the Flaming Monocle came about as a result of I used to be a bit of a doormat. I used to be somewhat um, I didn't tend to speak my mind particularly well, and I wanted to, but I didn't quite know how to go around it. And the voice of the Flaming Monocle is literally my own voice with maybe a little extra gravel and a little bit more of the ruling of the R's and whatnot. Um, and what it boiled down to was me wanting to be extremely selfish and exploring that part of me, which was all about just being and doing what it is that I wanted to do to have fun, rather than sacrificing whatever I had for the entertainment of others, kind of thing. It was like, no, this is what I am and this is what I do, and you'll damn well like it, kind of thing. And it seems to have worked out rather well. And it seems that the bigger my ego gets, the more popular everything becomes. So I'm trying to temper that with remaining somewhat humble by the fact that I'm not one of the world's biggest Twitch broadcasters or so on, but I also every night I go to bed, I worry about getting to the point where you can't interact individually with people in your chat for any length of time. And there always comes a time where you get too big and people are like, oh, you used to be cool, but now you're not. And I'm like, I worry about that.
Well, I mean, some of the most success I've seen out of a good, like, higher tiered streamer with a lot of people in their chat is the community that builds around it.
Hmm.
And you seemed like you have a pretty solid community. Just a few of the people that I know personally that watch you, Zalthar and Ashgard, like they're awesome people and they're great community members. They've built fantastic communities on thetheir own. And then it's one of those things, like, and I've watched your guys' Twitter interactions. You guys you guys kind of take care of each other and have each other's backs, and uh, you know, I think the community in your chat helps a lot when it comes to building to a point where you can't handle the chat. You know what I mean?
Indeed, and to a greater or lesser extent, the chat and more importantly, the community handles itself. It is now it's its own entity now, and if I wasn't there, it would still be there. And I'd like to think that someone else would take the mantle and carry on with it. And yeah, we have our, as Ashgard rightly points out, we have our own little catchphrase, which is "evil looks after its own," which it rightly does. And which is to say, we're not exclusive, as in we don't exclude people from it, but it is when you join the family of evil, there's no leave. You and you are there forever. And I'm in the process of turning my my little Patreon land, which will become a subscribe star land hopefully pretty soon, into a quote unquote not a protection racket. So that's going to be fun, I think, and I think people will really respond well to that. So the community of evil is the reason why I stream now. It used to be because I wanted to explore what it was to be the Flaming Monocle, this other half of me. Now it is that. It is absolutely 100% community driven.
That's so fascinating. So one more question I have about just this idea of evil. Do you incorporate that into your gameplay? Like, is it, if you have the choice of being good or bad, do you just automatically tilt towards being bad?
I think. Well, so here's the thing: there's a lot of games where you can choose to be a good guy or a bad guy, and that's great. And I will often lean towards the being of the evil. But more often than not, it's about being anarchical, which is playing the game not necessarily the way the developer intended, or doing things that weren't necessarily scripted into the game, or finding ways to break it, but at the same time exploit it. And it's about not choosing to be evil because evil's there to be chosen. It's about being evil because I have a slightly skewed moral compass and I wish to break things. And I often find ways of doing that. So it's like, I don't want to be good, I want to be evil. I've got this third path, which is mine, and I'm going to break everything. And that's often without meaning to as well. So if you're given two choices in a game, to pick the third one. That's always going to be the most fun.
Ah, that's brilliant. I like that. I like that. Okay, so we're coming down. We're winding down to about the end of the podcast here. I just had the one last question that I like to ask people, whenever they pop in. What advice would you have for people who are getting into Twitch or who are already streaming and stuff? Just any advice that you would have for anyone who's streaming from
For
your own personal
beginners,
perspective.
okay, I'll say this for beginners first because a lot of people have asked me this, which is people who want to get things right before they stream. My suggestion is to people who want to stream, if you want to go camera, get your camera. If you want to have talk, get a microphone, and then just start streaming. And you will gradually add what you feel is necessary to the stream. You'll get an understanding as to how streaming works, and then you will be able to build on top of that. If you have an understanding of how the streaming works already, and you're already into it and everything, don't try and do like I did, everything at once, because then what will happen is you'll take 2 months off, whatever little audience you did have will have gone. And when you come back, you'll have yourself in this overwhelming situation where it's like, I have all this new stuff and I don't quite know how to fit it all together. Just build upon what it is that you're comfortable with and try and push the boundary a little bit every day. Don't try and do it all at once. And try and find new things to do because there are so many. I mean, I love Streamlabs. I love the stuff they offer, but I often think to myself, these guys market themselves as like a one-stop shop. Go here. We have everything the modern streamer needs. I go, well, yeah, but I think there's room for ingenuity. So if you've got an idea and it's possible, find someone to help you do it and make it happen. Make yourself unique, and I'm sure you'll find great success on Twitch and YouTube or Mixer or wherever it is you happen to want to be to do your whole streaming larky. And if you find yourself struggling, then cut back. You know, don't sacrifice yourself for the good of the stream. What you need to do is have a tremendous amount of fun with what you're doing. If you're having fun, then anyone that's there is going to know that you're having a tremendous amount of fun. And hopefully, here's the thing: if you happen to be a variety caster, which, as you and I both know, is an incredibly saturated environment to be in, you need to differentiate yourself. And if you're having a tremendous amount of fun, funnily enough, just by the sheer fact that you are being entertained yourself and therefore entertaining others is enough to push you above like an enormous percentage of people that are desperately trying to get noticed. So do it for yourself first, and then figure the rest out as you go along. Unless unless you have a time frame, in which case, by all means, find some artist friends and pay them a lot of money. Pay your artists. Pay your artists.
Yes, definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Is there anything else you want to say for anyone who's watching right now that might be listening or watching to this in the future?
Yeah, I have something to say to Ashgard. It's the word "it's" you've spelt there doesn't have an apostrophe. That means it is, and you should have used "it's" without that. But I'll let you off with that one. But is there anything else I'd like to say? I'd like to say thank you to the entire evil community. They all know who they are, and they're on Discord. I dare say, if you check out my Twitter, on one of my pinned tweets, it has a link to the Discord. If you'd like to join over there, you could come and take part in the evil community yourself. My Twitter is @Flaming Monocle. My Twitch is twitch.tv/Flaming Monocle. My YouTube is youtube.com/Flaming Monocle. Facebook.com/Flaming Monocle, and Subscribestar/Flaming Monocle, Patreon/Flaming Monocle. In fact, just type in Flaming Monocle to your favorite social activity. Chances are I'm there, and I'm already doing my best to make it a little more evil.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. If you haven't had the opportunity to go check out Flaming Monocle, links are going to be in the description down below. If you want to check out any of our social media stuff for Just Another Nerdy Podcast, there are going to be buttons down below if you're watching this live, or there's links down below if you're listening to this or watching this later on YouTube. So feel free to hit that all up. Remember, this Wednesday, we're going to be doing a podcast. We're going to be talking a little bit about the weekly nerdy news. There's actually quite a bit going on, so especially gaming-wise. So feel free to pop in on Wednesday, watch us live, or you can catch us on YouTube as well. And then we are also, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and CastBox. You can download us there. Put a little nerdy in your pocket so you don't have enough time to watch this video. You can download us for a nice little drive. Say you're stuck in the frozen tundra hell that I'm in right now. You gotta be shoveling a little bit. You can pop us in your ear and just listen to us a little bit. So you can check us out there. Then you can watch me stream. I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 9 a.m. At Diehm. You can check me out over there. I think there's a button down below for that as well. But yeah, it's 75 degrees here. Where are you? Where are you that it's 75 degrees?
I have a secret volcano lair, but no, seriously, I'm just outside Los Angeles.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm in Iowa, so we are a popsicle. It just keeps getting colder and there just seems to be more and more snow. Like, it won't stop. So I'm in a frozen tundra of doom, and I just discovered, as a homeowner, I did not sign up for I signed up for shoveling the walk and shoveling the drive and whatnot, but I did not sign up for what I found out I might have to do soon. I might have to climb on top of my roof and shovel the snow off of my roof because it might be too heavy. So,
yeah. Well, a new roof is going to be fairly pricey. So
yeah, that is something I did not sign up for. But yeah, so guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Next week, it's going to be later at night. It's going to be, I want to say, 10 Central. We are going to be interviewing Bagel Rabbit. So pop in for that interview if you get a chance. It's going to be an hour-long interview, or you can subscribe on YouTube. We have a whole playlist there, so you can subscribe over there and check it out as well. We've got, and if you want to learn more about more people, definitely check out. We got Ashgard. We've got Smoke and Dank 5280, Pink Smurf. We've got Zalthara. We've got a whole bunch of people over there as well. So head over to YouTube and check out those interviews if you want to learn more. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.